So I recently finished the 7th season of Rick and Morty after struggling a little bit to find where I could actually watch this legally. It just so happened to drop on streaming services over in the United States, which for me is a more convenient way to watch because I don't have cable. So yeah, for all of you asking in the comments section, why haven't you talked about Rick and Morty season 7 yet, Mr. Cow? It's just because I don't have cable and it's more convenient to watch it on streaming services. But I've watched it all now, and I'm here to talk about it and share my thoughts, because I was surprised. I wasn't sure if I'd have that much to say about this new season. Of course, the biggest talking point is the replacement of the voices of Rick and Morty, which I guess we'll just start right now. I really didn't mind the new voices all that much, and a lot of that comes from the fact that these newer episodes just feel fundamentally different from the ones before where Justin Roiland was voicing the characters. Justin Roiland brings a really different kind of energy where he's riffing off of himself in most of the scenes, and now it's just a completely different energy. It's two people actually riffing off of each other, maybe in a recording booth, maybe they're recording their lines separately, but a lot of this means that it just feels like a different show entirely. This season seemed to lean more into setup, punchline kind of jokes, and I feel like that's because they weren't leaning into the rambly, improvisational stuff that you would usually get with Justin Roiland in the role. It's a different kind of approach, I would say for sure, but I wouldn't call it a bad one. In fact, I'd call it pretty dang good. This new season had one of my favorite jokes in all of Rick and Morty, and I'm sure a lot of you have already seen this clip, but where Rick is giving Morty different kinds of guns with different names and different effects to help Morty solve some of his problems. That joke is just brilliant. It is fantastic, and it feels like classic old school Rick and Morty, which is weird to think about, but yes, we are on the 7th season of this show. And while a lot of people are a little bit upset that it's starting to feel different and they're starting to lean into other things, like leaning into more setup, punchline-based jokes that maybe come back at the end of the episode rather than leaning into the improv, for me, in the 7th season of a show, if you're starting to try things differently and they're working, keep doing that. That's good for longevity. I want it to feel like slightly different eras of comedy for the show so that it continues to feel fresh. We can't just do the same thing over and over again, and especially with how talented this crew is working on Rick and Morty, clearly they can pull off both. Maybe they just want to try something new with the style of comedy in this season, because I can't emphasize this enough. While this is still Rick and Morty, this season does feel a lot different, and it's because of the new voice actors. It's because of the new approach that I feel like they're having. The show definitely does feel different now. I can't deny that. It feels like a different kind of show without Justin Roiland in that role that he was in for the past, like 8 years or something like that. But different doesn't always mean bad, and if Rick and Morty continues to have a lot of well thought out setup punchline jokes that are not only clever but incredibly funny, I'm fine with a change in direction. Some people won't be though, and that's just a fact. Some people grew up with the first 6 seasons, they really loved it, and now this change is just not gonna feel like the same show, so it's kind of a case-by-case basis. But for me, I'm fine with something newer, something fresher, especially when a change had to be made, and I think they adapted pretty well to it. So yeah, this season definitely feels different, and sometimes it works out really, really well. In fact, I would say there are 2 episodes in this new season that I would praise as some of the best in all of Rick and Morty, but then there are other episodes in this 7th season that feel a little less special. They feel a bit more mediocre and forgettable, and maybe that's just because there are 2 really incredible episodes in this season. But I was left a little bit underwhelmed most of the time in the episodes where they were bringing back characters or ideas from older episodes, which is something that happens a few times in this new season. It could be bringing back a character like Mr. Poopy Butthole for his own episode. That episode to me was like, okay, it's all right, just sort of mediocre. Or there's one episode where they decide to focus the entire runtime to a throwaway gag from an older episode. Without spoiling what it is, if you haven't seen any of these, I won't spoil it, but they bring some stuff back that I just feel like is like, okay, cool, but the appeal of Rick and Morty to me is seeing some new characters, seeing some new environments. I want to see like new worlds and new stories from within those worlds, and I just feel like they dwelt a little bit too much in the past for a few of these episodes. But to be fair, when they actually lean into the new set pieces, new characters, new setups for plot lines, this season can be really, really great, and it can also be really, really weird, which I can appreciate as a pretty big fan of Rick and Morty who's been watching it for a really long time. On the whole, season 7, I was a little bit worried about it. I had heard they lost their footing a little bit, and while for sure, there are episodes that feel mediocre, I would say there's probably 4 episodes in season 7 that are a little bit forgettable and a little bit mediocre. But I would also say there are 4 episodes in this 10-episode season, just to make this breakdown clear. There are 4 more episodes that are pretty dang good and memorable. And then there are 2 as like the little cherries on top that are just superb. There are literally 2 episodes in this season that for fans of Rick and Morty, it's exactly what they want in an episode. And that happens twice, which is more than you can say for other seasons of this show. So, on the whole, I thought this season was pretty great, and if you're a fan of Rick and Morty, I do encourage you to give it a try. It is available on streaming services now, so it's actually convenient to watch. I don't really have any hangups about it. I feel like if you like Rick and Morty, you probably know by now. If you've never checked it out, it's worth checking out, for sure. I think you'll get hooked on it. I think there's a good chance of it. If the humor in the first episode isn't for you, then I'll be real, the entirety of the show might not gel too much with you. But if you like fun sci-fi plot lines, if you like good, well-written characters that have a lot of setup and payoffs when it comes to their development, then I would say this is a show for you. But it definitely has a grosser, leaning towards edgier sense of humor a good amount of the time. That's where I'll leave it, though. I guess I should give it a score out of 10 for those of you who care. It's like a 7.5 or an 8. That's where I'm sitting. 7.5, closer to an 8 than a 7. So right there in the middle. It's pretty dang good. I'm actually excited to see what they do next season because I feel like they're on a really good road right now. And if they can really lean into the stuff that they're kind of experimenting with in this 7th season, I think it could be really, really special and could almost be like a full-on comeback for this show as it nears its 10th season, which is crazy to think about, which, yes, apparently is coming. Apparently they're going to get to season 10. So buckle up, everybody. I guess I'll see you next January or next January, depending on when this new season comes out, but that's where I'll leave it. 7.5 is how I feel, closer to an 8. You check it out. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know what you thought of season 7 of Rick and Morty down in the comment section below. Like and subscribe to become a cow, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.